Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Joining me tonight for a special bonus episode where we're going to take a look and have a chat about Steve Bruce and mainly the sacking of him. My partner from the Shankly Sessions, Dino, how we doing, my man?
I think it's safe to say there was a nice little Brucey's bonus.
Absolutely, you can play your cards right.
Not middle or bottom, please.
This was probably the worst kept secret in football, wasn't it? Really,
it was the worst kept secret in football, but you're still gutted for Steve Bruce. Like he finally came out and told of the toll it had on him, his family, the personal life, the fans resenting him, the fans having no attachment to him whatsoever. He wasn't even recognised as the club's manager. That must be absolutely soul destroying for any man. Hard as can be, but if you're anywhere emotional or sensitive, it's stuff like this isn't good. But as he said, he's been put out of his misery, and the outpouring of support from rival Premier League managers today has been great to see. Pep came out this morning and said he sympathises with him and all, but you always see that when someone gets like it's all well and good if Pep leaves Man City and the success he's had there, or when Jurgen leaves, when you're manager of one of them teams that's just constantly in a relegation battle, and you just cannot win over the support of the fans whatsoever. The managers union always tells when something like this happens, and it's just good to see that he has that support.
Yeah, I think it was a very difficult one. I mean, some of the stuff that he released the other day after being let go was very difficult to read. Like it was very, very cutting, very personal, and vindictive. There was a lot there. But I mean, he was there. When you look at his Newcastle record, he was there 826 days in charge, 97 games, 28 wins, 28 draws, 41 losses, about a 29% win ratio. It's a wonder he stuck it out so long, isn't it?
I think when the first talking of of the money coming in, the takeover coming in, and the fans are thinking, we can hold off until this happens. And I think like the likes of Mike Ashley, he was looking at his financial situation and saying, well, I can't afford to sack him. I'm already in enough of a mess. But so he says anyway. But like I think that was the one thing that did keep him in the job. I know they set up last season. But I think that constant talk of, they're going to appeal the decision about the takeover, in the back of their minds was like, if we sack him now and then another manager has to come in, and then when the new owners come in, he has to get sacked because they need the big face to match the big amount of money that they're going to spend. So this is why I'm sympathising. He should have gone a long time ago. You know what I mean? And to just the way the season has started, last week was like part of that celebration was the fact that they knew they were getting rid of Steve Bruce with the fans. You know what I mean? I've always talked about Newcastle as being a big club. They're a Champions League worthy club, and with the right backing and the love, the buzz back in the club. We've seen it Sunday against Spurs. Like I haven't seen that at St James's Park in over 10, 15 years. You look back at the nights Kevin Keegan was manager. You look back at the Champions League nights they had. That was the last time I seen that kind of atmosphere at St James's Park. And part of that celebration was that Steve Bruce was gone. Now, with the money that's gone, you look at Newcastle's next 6 fixtures. I think bar Norwich away, they're all, on paper, they're not going to pick many points up. So whether they bring someone in straight away or who's going to hang around, but Newcastle could still go down this season, and that's who's going to want to take over if they go down.
Yeah, it's frightening in terms of a takeover. I mean, the talk at the moment is Fonseca. I think I have a list there of managers that are in the running for it. Fonseca's kind of come out of nowhere. I know obviously he was available because he's finished with Roma. Jose took over, but he's I don't know whether he would be the long-term manager, would he, or is he going in there to kind of do a job until they get the right guy becomes available or something like that? I know they spoke with Conte, but obviously Conte didn't fancy it because the talk at the moment is maybe he's waiting for the United job, I'd say.
Well, there's talk of Conte is waiting on the United job, and Brendan Rodgers has point blank said no because he's waiting to take over Man City when Pep goes. That's apparently the word on the street. So
Mm.
Fonseca, he might be rubbing his hands together and licking his lips and going in all this money behind me. Newcastle are languishing bottom or second bottom in the January transfer window. As much money as they have, who's gonna like? There's the potential there of big names coming in January, but not settling, and they could go down. I personally think Newcastle will go down, but then like Fonseca's going out and spending major money, and then they do get relegated. Like they're going to be expected to put the hand in the pocket again. They're going to be expected to get rid of him. So it's such a strange situation that the dream for them is Newcastle stay up and then they just start building straight away next summer. But I think they're going to go down. I just think it's a big mess, massive mess there.
Mm.
And for Steve Bruce, it's actually probably a blessing in disguise for him that they didn't wait till January.
Yeah, well, I don't think that was ever going to happen anyway with the way things were going. I knew the change was going to come, and I think like giving them the 1,000 game or something like that was just a sort of a, there you go. It might have been part of the release deal, if you like. But
yeah,
what do you think was the key things with Brucey? I mean, he seemed to. I think he was there long enough because he sort of protected Ashley in a way, didn't he, by creating that shield, and he kind of was in the firing line, wasn't he? Because obviously they always go in on the managers when results aren't going right. Everyone knows what Ashley was about anyway, so there's no change there. But Brucey kind of got dragged into that, didn't he? As well, kind of. He was kind of guilty, nearly by association, wasn't he?
Guilty by association. Doesn't help that when Benitez left, they were expecting something big to come in. You know what I mean? Replacing Benitez, and Bruce coming in, and like straight off the bat, the fans just weren't happy. So, with Wades, how they grow through the cracks. Like he came in a pavement that was like just covered in cracks. The weeds were already there, and then just day by day, the weeds just started to cover the place. And as you said, when he back in Ashley and Oil blame me, hit everything at me and all. Like they've already got countless amounts of ammo, and then you're coming out and saying that practically siding with the owner, not talking out against them and all. You're just giving them more, and they're just going to throw stones morning, noon, and night. And like they've won, but I think Ashley's been a bit of a coward about the whole thing, if you ask me and all. Like he just takes the money and just fucks off into the sunset and all. Do you know what I mean? No apologies to the fans. I know we did come out and say that he hadn't got the money, but I think the Newcastle fans are not stupid. I think they know that he did have a decent amount of money there. He just didn't want to put a penny in. It was basically a hit and hope. If they stay up, happy days, more money coming in the coffers. If they go down, you get a parachute payment. He didn't give a fuck about that football club.
Yeah, I think for Steve as well, it was difficult, wasn't it? Because he had that falling out. Remember the troubles that time with Matt Ritchie and stuff like that and all, and he kind of lost the dressing room a little bit over that. But then he had also lost the fan base as well, because the fan base really never bought into him. Sure, they didn't.
No, they didn't want anything to do with him from the minute he walked into the club. Massive celebrations with that money, that deal being taken over. That finally, the pain is over. Get rid of him. But St. Maxim came out and paid tribute to him, and it was really nice to read. I don't know whether you've seen it or not, but he came out and said some nice things about, not a hard man like Steve Bruce. You look back to him in the Premier League days with Man United, he was a tough bastard. Him and Gary Pallister beside each other. They were the backbone of that first great Man United team. And when St. Maxim's coming out and talking about him being a gentle soul, and you do get the impression that even after falling out with Matt Ritchie, there was a heart-to-heart there. You know what I mean? He has this persona when he's on the sideline and all, but you do get the idea that he likes to put the arm around the player, and if they're having a tough time. And it was nice to see St. Maxim. I'm sure there were private texts. So there's a lot of players now that didn't want to put all over social media and look for the spotlight and the likes and what have you. I'd say there was a few personal phone calls and texts, and I'd say everything was a lot rosier than it seemed in the background. He did lose the dressing room for a while, but I think he earned the respect of a lot of players that were there. You know what I mean? And the likes of Joe Linton and all, he did continue to play them, and he did back them. And he didn't shy away. Like when things weren't going great, he stood up, and as some managers should. and put the chest out and say, blame me. The blame is all on me. These lads, the pressure is mounting on them as much as they're on like money wise and all, but you have to give credit to them for doing that.
Yeah, in terms of the takeover now, I mean the key challenges are really they have to try and stay in the Premier League, don't they? That's their first goal. But I mean, there's so much other stuff there that they have problems with. I mean, they've a back line there that needs to be totally overhauled. The training facilities, from what I believe, is absolutely shocking. The ground looks like it could do with a bit of work to it as well. But how do they manage now this fan base expectation now with the takeover? I mean, I know I'm not even a Newcastle fan, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, we've something lined up for that. As a Liverpool fan, but like you wouldn't necessarily, well, you wouldn't consider Newcastle a rival, not yet. Anyway, let's see how that pans out. But you are excited to see what happens. You are excited because the talk has been that since the takeover was agreed, that agents of some of the top footballers in Europe have been on to Newcastle saying, right, hit us with an offer. You know what I mean? It's the limit. Like there's no limit to the expectations yet. There's no limit to the money. If people think the money Man City have is a lot, it's me compared to the finances of Conor McGregor. That's how much money these guys have. It's absolutely frightening. And the funny thing about this is all of the Premier League clubs except for Newcastle, when this deal came through, they all went to the FA and said, right, there's no sponsorship allowed to come into the club from companies owned by these guys. The fucking irony of Man City complaining about the financial welfare in the Premier League, that tells you how worried these guys are. Because let's look back to when Man City were taking over. Completely same situation as Newcastle. Lower half of the table every season, one or two decent players, half a crowd, well, still half a crowd at the Etihad. That's why we call it the empty hat. Newcastle have about 20 times more money than Man City, but are in the exact same situation. So it's going to be enjoyable up until they're challenging Liverpool for a league title. But it's going to be enjoyable to watch the journey of them gradually getting there, because in 10, 12, 15 years' time, you'd imagine Newcastle are going to be a mainstay in the Champions League. They'll be on the precipice of winning it like Man City have been. You do expect at least one Premier League title in the next 10 years, because they're possibly going to bring in everybody because the financial structure is there now.
They'll also find a way around that sponsorship thing, won't they?
Oh,
I mean, Man City have found ways.
Yeah, 3 times they found ways. And how did they get out of it? Paying a lousy fine that was just miserable. But it's just the pot calling the kettle black for Man City to be jumping on the bandwagon and complaining about financial fair play and making sure everything is above board coming into the club. That just shows you how wealthy these guys are.
Yeah, I'm looking at their next games now: Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford, Arsenal, and Norwich. All tough games.
All tough games, but like you look at, did you put in Brighton there?
Brighton's in there. Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford, Arsenal, and Norwich.
Like on paper, the way Brentford have been going, you can easily see Brentford giving them a beating. Chelsea, you'd expect them to beat them. Arsenal, you'd expect them to beat them. Brighton, on their day, could put it up to anybody. And the way Norwich are going, on paper, out of them 6 fixtures, you only see them getting 3 points from Norwich. Now, they might pick up a point here or there, but Norwich is the only one you see them winning.
If they appoint Fonseca, do you see them getting a managerial bump at all? I mean, it didn't look like, they came out of the blocks the other day against Spurs and they got an early goal, but they kind of fell asunder a bit, didn't they?
Fell asunder. They obviously had to come out of the blocks. The way that the atmosphere was, they had to come out of the blocks. If they had a start and it was a slow start and they were a goal down early, you know what I mean? The back's against the wall already. But the worry is for Fonseca as well. Is he the man that will be, the fans will be crying out for, with the money that's come into the club, with, the excitement levels through the roof, with the expectation? Is Paulo Fonseca the man that the fans want? And let's be honest, if it's not, I'm sure they let their voices be known.
There seems to be an impression that whoever manager comes in first, if it is Fonseca, they'll be only in there about 18 to 24 months. And
If
then
they're lucky.
and then at that stage, they'll put in a structure where they'll attract in, one of the big managers that potentially might be available at that stage, I mean, I presume they've had conversations with Conte and he doesn't fancy it. I assume they've had conversations with Zidane and he doesn't fancy it. I mean, they haven't just pulled Paulo Fonseca out of nowhere, you know what I mean? It's an interesting list, though. Eddie Howe was on there, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard was asked about it the other day, and he said, "Do I look like I'm unhappy? Stop asking me silly questions." You know what I mean? Unai Emery.
Stevie knows what's ahead. That's what's wrong.
I don't see Rodgers going there. I know he kind of turned it down, didn't he? Basically, he was asked about it and he didn't want to get into it.
Yeah. He's gonna go to Man City, I think.
What about Emery on the list?
Yeah, I think that's what Newcastle need. They need someone to come in. He's a calm mind. He's a settled manager. You're seeing with his Europa League wins with Seville, like he plays very, very good football. He was onto a loser as soon as he walked in the door at Arsenal, if you ask me. The hate inside the Emirates is as toxic as anywhere else when things are going wrong. Fonseca, he is a decent level of a manager. You know what I mean? He has, he has got success on the pitch, but with Unai Emery, he genuinely, he's a top European caliber manager. It didn't work out. He want to come in and make an impression after what happened at the Emirates and all. And you get the feeling like if he came in, he'd be bringing a couple of players with him. You know what I mean? He'll settle down everything in the squad. You know what I mean? He'll know the areas. I'm sure he watches Newcastle games. You know what I mean? But he'll know the areas that need strengthening. It won't be a case of, right, we have 755 billion. Come on out and buy Haaland, Mbappe and Mo Salah. He'll know the areas that the defense needs to be worked on straight away. So if I'm a Newcastle fan, that's the name I'd be looking at to come in.
Yeah. Getting back to Brucey, he turned around and he said that he thinks this would be his retirement now, that he wouldn't manage again. It's hard to believe he wouldn't be still involved in football, isn't it?
No, definitely not. You can see him managing in the Championship, not necessarily in the Premier League, but you can see him definitely managing someone in the Championship. Probably. I don't even think that League One, I think, will be a step too far. I think he has got the qualities. We've seen him with Hull. We've seen him in the Championship before. We've seen him with Villa. Let's see what how I don't believe that he's going to retire. I'd say there's enough money after going into his back pocket that he could happily retire, but he's still too young. He still has that hunger. He want to go out and prove the outwards wrong after what happened in Newcastle. So I won't be surprised when he is back in the hot seat soon.
Yeah, you never get the impression from him that it was a money thing. Sure, you don't. You always got the impression with him that he just loved football and stuff like that. And I'm sure he got a handsome payoff there leaving Newcastle, but I don't think that's really what he's about. I don't think he doesn't come across as one of those guys that'd be very flash and all and stuff like that,
You can't see him driving around like Graham Souness in a Rolls Royce, can you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Definitely not. How long do you think it'll take? How quickly do you think Newcastle will get into this? They can't wait around really if they're going to be languishing down near the bottom, can they?
No. Like they want to get it started straight away. They want to get money in January. They want to get out of the mess that they're in. The worry then is, are the right players coming in? You're coming into it. It's not you're not coming into Liverpool on the back of a Premier League success. You're not coming into Chelsea on the back of a Champions League success with knowing that you're good enough to win the Premier League. These guys are coming in to really grind down on their bones and try and grate out a revival of such. And the worry is that how much money do they spend, because they need at least two defenders. You know what I mean? They could deal with a bit of strength in the middle of the park, and they need a goal scorer. They need to go out and spend easily 100 million. They can't take any risks. It can't be a case of there's someone doing well in the Championship, let's go and get them. They're gonna have to go out and bring in some big names as soon as January. And I personally think that they'll be relegated. I'd be surprised if they stay up. I just think that the pressure on the players that are there now you know what I mean, for their careers going forward and all. And like the second from bottom in the table, or third from bottom, I just think that the pressure is going to really, really fucking like boil under these boys, and I think they're going down. And then it's a case of right in the summer having to put in probably another 150, 200 million.
God, I'd be surprised now if they go down. You know what I mean? I think with Ashley gone and with Bruce gone, I think it might loosen up the players a little bit, and we might see a little bit more of what they're about. You know, now I know against Spurs, it wasn't the ideal start, but I mean, you're not going to get the bounce straight away, are you? After a couple of days and stuff like that, you know. But I wonder if Fonseca went in there, could he tighten them up a bit at the back? That good Italian way of playing like Roma. And he knows how to set them up for goals as well, because Roma know how to score, knew how to score goals under Fonseca as well. So I just wonder, could he keep them up? You know, I mean, the thoughts of them going down with this takeover, I'm sure they didn't factor that in when they were spending this amount of money on the club. You know.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the squad now. Like obviously they've got Darlow and Dubravka, like two decent goalkeepers.
Yeah.
You know, I think can't see one of them moving on unless something crazy happens goalkeeper wise. But they've two decent goalkeepers there. Like you're looking at the defenders, like Sharma and Quillo, probably Lacazette is the top defender. You know what I mean? He's other than him, they'd want to be going out and strengthen all those areas. Then your midfielders, you have Almiron, you have Ryan Fraser, Matt Ritchie, and obviously St. Maxim. But Willock's kind of been hot and cold since he came in. You know what I mean? So there's no standout players there. Up top, Dwight Gale, he come in every 6 or 7 games and he might pop up with a goal or two. Joe Linton, God love him, he's trying. And then you have Callum Wilson. But like, you lose Callum Wilson through injury, you know what I mean? There's no one really there to get a goal for the team. So massive money is going to have to go in. And obviously we have different opinions on this. I'll be surprised if they stay up. You'll be surprised if they go down. But it's a massive battle on the hands now.
Yeah, it's like they have to sort of stay in the running, don't they, until they get to the 1st of January. And then they need to go out and just, back up the 40-foot container and shovel the money out the door and get people in. Yeah, I think they have to stay up. I can't imagine them wanting any sort of interest in the championship for a whole year and seeing all this stuff go by them. So I think they'll do whatever they have to do in January to keep up.
How nice would it be now if they did go out on tomorrow and be fucking Chelsea or Crystal Palace, and then they beat Chelsea, is it? You know what I mean? And you get that bit of momentum, but then you have like the likes of Liverpool, who've already, I think we've already played Newcastle, have we? Not 100% sure. But like, you're looking at when we don't have to play them in the next 6 fixtures. If they can get that little bit of revival and they can go out and pick up points again, they're closest rival. So in a sense, you're like, as a Liverpool fan, you're hoping there is that mini revival. You know, you have to definitely fucking take any help you can, like, you know what I mean?
We're playing them 16th of December.
Oh,
remember they changed the fixture to the Thursday the other day. We were only talking about it.
We were talking about going over, and I think Jamie Webster's playing one of them nights, but that's on the subject. But there is a bit of a gap before we play them. So if they get that little bit of revival and they start helping us, and we're doing our job and picking up points, come then. Newcastle also have the hope that in the case of having a mini revival, not losing any players through injury, because as I've just said, there's not that much quality in the squad. So, they're kind of hoping and praying. I'm sure there's some absolutely fucking ridiculous amounts of Novena is being said around
candles,
the town and candles and all. They really want to just get a bit of steam behind them and push on now. So look, it is exciting as a Liverpool fan. I'd say it's exciting as well for the neutral. I think there's a lot of us kind of hoping that they do go on a little run and we see the atmosphere back in Newcastle. So let's just wait and see.
Yeah, the shake up to a top 6 wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm just wondering, do you reckon Bruce was getting the most out of
them? I don't really know. It's kind of hard to say. You can see one or two of the lads, like the likes of St. Maxim, because he wasn't expecting the takeover to happen. So he's looking at the interest from Liverpool and the interest from Man United and the interest across from the top teams across Europe. He's saying to himself, I go out here and bust me balls for the boss. Put myself in the shop window, keep impressing. And then there's players out here obviously not trying, you know what I mean? I'm safe. Fans aren't going to turn on me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, certainly when you look at the fan base, they pretty much they stuck by the players through thick and thin without a shadow of a doubt, and they kind of used Brucey as a soundboard, and he was kind of that sort of shield.
Hold on 1 second. Making his debut. Say, enjoy a Brucey bonus. He's going to bed now.
Oh, what a
my God. Little legend.
Deadly. Yeah, well, I suppose all we can do is we can wish Steve Bruce all the best in the future. I'm sure he got a nice paycheck out of it, but I'm sure that wasn't the overriding factor. He is a football man through and through. And I mean, who knows? I mean, with Ollie under shaky ground at the moment. Can you imagine?
Stranger things have happened. I expect to see Brucey doing a bit of punditry now in the next few weeks on Sky Sports.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? It'd be interesting to get his take on stuff and all, yeah.
It'd be nice to get him on a Monday Night Football, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Carragher, we've seen it when Benitez was on with Carragher, he knows what questions to ask, and I'm sure Neville will as well, because the support he's had since he got sacked, these guys will want to know what exactly was it like back there. And you do get the impression that Bruce won't come out when he'll be throwing people under the bus left, right, and centre, but he'll leave the opinion window open that people will question and kind of see that he's having a few subtle digs at probably Ashley and new owners.
Well, I suppose as part of the deal, there's probably a shut up time period as well there, where you have to keep your cuteness safe for a while in order to cash your check. But be interesting to see when he comes out what he does have to say about what went on. And I'm intrigued to find out what the relationship with Ashley was like. They seemed pretty tight, didn't they?
Spare the thought for Rafa Benitez, the same under Gillette and Hicks. Like, he's such a well-respected manager in Europe. He's had European success. He's been at the top teams. I'd have loved to see what Benitez would have done with this money. That would have been something very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting conundrum, though, is when you look at both their records at Newcastle, they're very similar.
Yeah, very, very similar.
That's
but come here, like Benitez was dead wide when he walked away. You know what I mean? He'd kept them up. They finished the season strong. The fans were on his side. So when he walked away after countless times saying, look, I need back and I need this, I need that, he went away with his head held high. Bruce has got back. Basically, he's had 60, 70,000 Newcastle fans, like, with a hold of him, throwing him into the river. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, a pleasure having you on. This has been our look at Steve Bruce and the Newcastle situation, because I know we didn't have you on for a couple of the Newcastle shows, so it was good to get your opinion on it.
Well, there's the reason there, young Lewis.
And it's a very good reason. As always, Dynamo Podcast Network for the video, Spotify for the audio version show. Let us know your comments down below. Were you a Brucey fan? Are you a Newcastle fan? Was it tough going? Was he the shield for Ashley? Was he the sacrificial lamb? If you want to let us know, at the _upper_ tier on Twitter, and you'll get us on Facebook and Instagram, the upper tier. Till next time, my friend.
Adios, amigos.